And we are rolling with Miss Cherry Perez, who I
Hello.
met on STEMcast. And I absolutely have to thank Chrissy Mayer for all of the wonderful people she has introduced me to, because no matter what walk of life they come from, all of these girls, we can have different opinions and we still all just hold our ground. And you and I were like the two Christians on like a couple of times in a row. And it was really fun to see the different contrasts and what people were saying and doing. And I loved the way you handled things. I love how mature you are. I love everything about you. And then the last time I found out that you have this incredible history, this
Yeah.
wonderful story of, you have like one of the biggest character arcs you can have, from, you're a beautiful girl and you were at one point homeless and
Yep.
street girl. And I'm excited to dig in and find out more about it. Can you give everybody just a quick bio on what you're up to? Because I found out today also that you have like a safe house.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So hi, I'm Cherry, by the way. Thanks for having me on, Carmen.
Of course.
Yeah. So I do a lot of things, but I do create content online, political, cultural stuff. I like to cover a lot of different things, the usual politics, but also, I recently did like an Ace family video. So I cover a broad range of topics. But yeah, I also, my sober house, it's on a pause right now, but I did run a sober house for a couple years. That was kind of like my first venture when I got sober. And then I ended up getting married. So we started to use the house for that and to build a family. But it was really like a pivotal thing for me to do and try to help others and give back. But yeah, that's a little bit
Wow.
about me, I guess. But
Well, let's start from the beginning. Let's get a little background on how you grew up and what your parents were like, because a lot of times, as you know, parent wounds are a real thing, and that's what sometimes causes a lot of turmoil in someone's life.
yeah, it's really interesting. People ask addicts this question a lot, and I wouldn't say I had like a really traumatic childhood. My parents were never married, so I never saw them together or anything, but they were pretty well off. I definitely grew up middle class. I grew up in a very safe neighborhood, affluent neighborhood in Minnesota, but I was definitely like a little bit sheltered for sure. I thought I knew a lot about the world. And then what happened is before I moved out to Boston, where my life kind of fell apart, I was living in Chicago for a year and I went to school there for a year. And that's kind of like when reality hit me, because I had kind of just grown up in this, just kind of bubble, to be honest, just very typical suburban Minnesota suburb and Minneapolis suburb. And when I moved there, that's the first time I really saw like homelessness. I saw crime. I saw all these things that I just didn't see living here. So yeah, nothing, honestly, I really didn't have any crazy thing happen to me like as a
Okay.
kid. So
Did you have siblings?
no, I'm an only child.
Okay.
I do have a sister that we literally found my sister about 2 years ago. My dad had another child that neither he nor my sister or
Oh,
I knew
wow.
about. Yeah. So we found her a couple years ago, but I grew up as an only child. So
Wow. That's a cool story too. I have a friend
yeah.
whose mom got a call from the so when she was really young, she and her husband had a baby before they got married. And I mean, they were like really young. And so they gave it up for adoption and they
Okay.
signed paperwork that they would never go back and blah, blah, blah. Well, it comes back around years and years later where she reached out to them through Facebook, somehow figured it out, and calls the mom because she gets a hold of one of the sons first, or I forget who, calls the mom, and the mom hangs up on her, but not because she was mad at her, or she just froze, like fight or
Like
flight.
shock.
Yeah. And it took her sons, who really wanted to know her, to bring her back into the family. And they all love each other now, and
Oh,
everything is wonderful. And they go to, football games together. And, it's just really cool story. I thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, I love that.
Here. Yeah.
It's great when it works out because it doesn't always,
No,
so.
Because, she could have hung up because she didn't, but that wasn't why. It was just she was so caught off guard 40 years later or whatever it was. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I love that though. I mean, really, it can go so many different ways. And it's kind of the same thing with my sister. It's like she fit right in. It's like, where have you been for the last 30 years? Like you fit into our family perfectly. So we got lucky with her too.
I love, well, she's got the genes, right? Or at least half of them.
Yeah.
So tell me this, so you go to Chicago and what was the first step towards, living in darkness, basically?
Yeah. So, I remember when I moved back home from Chicago, I thought, wow, things are looking up because that was the hardest part of my life. Well, I just was so wrong, but it was just, like I said, it was really tough for me. I had a hard time like grappling with the fact that there is so much darkness in the world and that like, I can't do anything about a lot of it. I mean, you can give some change or some food to a homeless person on the street. And like, that does matter. And you should do those things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really feel like you're doing much to change a lot of unfortunate situations. And I was just kind of lost in general during that time. I had gotten like a full scholarship to this school there. It's called Columbia College in Chicago. And I studied music in college. So I had gotten a full scholarship there. And I thought that this experience in this college was going to be like this life-changing thing. And it just wasn't. I had a hard time making friends. Fortunately, my best friend from back home here in Minnesota, she went to a different school in Chicago. So we had each other, thankfully. But it's like, it just wasn't right for me. It wasn't my vibe. It just, nothing about it. I started failing and stopped going to class. And that's kind of when I started to get into substances. Not anything crazy, but just experimenting. And because I was just so unhappy and my best friend honestly was going through the same thing. So us together, we were kind of just like partying a lot and just getting into, bad stuff, but it was fun. It was like the fun part of it, where it's not too serious and you're exploring this big city together and whatnot. So, but yeah, I remember having like a moment when I moved there, probably halfway through, just really realizing like, oh, this is how the world actually is. Like it's not just this like safe place and there are bad things and they happen all the time and there's nothing you can do about it. And for some reason that just really stuck in my brain. But it, from there, I moved back home to Minnesota for the summer and I had applied to go to Berklee College of Music, which is out in Boston. It's basically like the Juilliard of music, but just for jazz. So it's a very,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's changed a little bit since I went there, but it's a very prestigious school and it's very difficult. It was a 17% acceptance rate when I applied and got in. It's also very expensive. But I had gotten in, so I moved back home for the summer and things were like looking up for me. And they were okay for a while when I moved out to Boston, but that was kind of my time in Chicago. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I saw the world for what it was for the first time and it was disturbing. It just was, but
yeah, it is disturbing. Did you grow up in a Christian home or were either one of your parents very spiritual or religious?
Not really. They both went to Catholic school. So they were very like scarred from that. Yeah. So not really. I mean, like we would go to mass on Christmas, but that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happens is you go out to the East Coast.
Yeah.
And what musical instrument or what did you sing or what was your?
Yeah, my instrument was voice, but I'm a songwriter and that's what got me into the college is I played my songs. I like a singer songwriter. So I, technically studied voice out there, but I play a lot of different instruments and my passion really was writing and recording. And so I moved out there and, I'd say like the first even 2-3 years were like fabulous. Like seriously, some of the best times in my entire life. I will always look back on that time with a lot of fondness. I'm finally like, I I didn't struggle in high school. I had friends and stuff, not like at my school, but I just never really felt like I fit in. You know, I was always like, this high school thing, don't care about it. Don't care about these people. Don't care about college, really. Like there's more out there for me. And I was very ambitious from a very young age. Like I had been pursuing music, honestly, since I was like 10 years old. Like that was my dream. That was my goal. And that's all I cared about. So when I finally got to Berkeley, first off, it had felt like this really big achievement because it's a very difficult school to get into. And I knew that this is what I wanted the last school to be. And I knew like this was going to be my shot, if you will. And it was really cool because I'm finally around people who are just like me. And they love music as deeply as I love music. Most of them are way better than I am, which is really inspiring and cool to be around.
Yes.
And a lot of the faculty are very accomplished people in the industry as well. And it like literally just felt like the world was like sparkling, you know, it was just like everything I wanted. And it was really good. And, so I always kind of like smoked a little weed and stuff like that and drank casually. So there was a lot of partying there. I mean, it's a liberal arts school, very, very liberal in that sense, but it wasn't really a big deal. But what happened is I met my ex, I think literally like the third week I was at school, and he went there too. And that's really like where it all went downhill.
The beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Well, this is really good because I do think people underestimate how easy it is for one person to impact us in a really negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Also really interesting, just kind of rewinding a little bit, looking at what you were saying about high school and college. I do believe the world rewards the left brain. And when people are super right brain and creative, and it's kind of like this weird, like, okay, like I can get the rules, I get the box, I get how to do the assembly line thing, but it's just kind of what is there, And it was funny because my daughter had two kinds of friends like growing up, and she had her high school friends from like, the public school, but then she also had her friends from acting. And I could always tell which ones were which, even if they were brand new, because like the acting ones were always like doing creative things or picking up props or doing stuff, where the other ones were just like, sitting around chatting. And it was just like a totally different vibe. So I do get that. And I think schools need to be more, or there maybe just needs to be more creative outlets for children and for young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went to like a very, like my high school, their football team is like the best in the state. Like it's very typical, high school experience. And it was great for people who were into that kind of thing. But for people like myself who just couldn't really care less, to be honest, way more interested in like artistic things and stuff, it didn't really like help progress me as a human, And as far as college, when I got back from Columbia, I was kind of like, well, either I get into Berkeley or I'm dropping out. Like, I'm not doing this college thing. I don't get this. I don't care about school. I'm not good at school. There's so many other things I can do in my life if I have to make money. Like, I'm not into this, know? And yeah, but.
So there goes Cherry to become like a mechanic or HVAC. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. We imagine though, right? Like it's just not me.
That's so funny. And so, okay. So then the beginning of the end happens pretty darn quickly. You're 3 weeks in and you're at the school and you meet this guy. Was it through somebody? Like, did one of the teachers introduce you, or was he just in a class? And
no, he really sought me out. He had saw me smoking a cigarette out in the front and really went through like a lot of people to get to me. And I remember being impressed by that. So he found me through somebody who I wasn't really even friends with, but was like in a class of mine or something like that. And we ended up connecting, but it was honestly kind of like a slow burn though, in terms of just like my addiction and the crime I ended up getting into and all of that. Cause in the beginning it was just partying.
Right.
It was like just hardcore partying. I mean, there was a point though where I was failing every class. My first, semester at Berkeley, because I was just spending too much time on the weekends. And again, just more experimenting, nothing like too crazy, but it definitely was getting in the way of my studies. But I did pull it together after that. I pulled it together pretty much the rest of my time I was at Berkeley. I did end up dropping out, but because I actually, that the same person that my ex went through to get to me, to talk to me. I remember there was this incident where my ex and I were at a party. He did too much of whatever he was doing, and it was really bad. I mean, he was like throwing up all over my dorm room, and basically I had to call up like another friend, and I had to get him to the hospital, and it was a really big ordeal. And the guy, he ended up being one of my best friends, this guy that my ex went through. And I remember him sitting down and just looking at me and talking to me like, you worked so hard to get here, and like you hated your last school. You're finally here. Like, don't let this guy like distract you and steal you from your dreams and your goals. And I remember that. I remember thinking to myself, he's absolutely right. So I was able.
I was thinking you would say you were already hooked and,
No.
Okay.
No,
Wow.
it took a while.
It is a slow burn.
Yeah. So I ended up, doing okay in school for probably like the next 2 years. Like I went to class, I learned a lot, got to play with a lot of people. I was, playing shows around the city and recording. And I remember I released a few songs and stuff, and I'm living in the city. Like at that point I had my own apartment. It was really fun, really good memories. And yeah, I partied all the time, but I was still like doing what I love to do, which was write and make and play music. And, so it was all fine and good. I was keeping it together. My parents were definitely like side-eyeing me. My parents are very involved, and they were also paying for my school. So they were definitely like side-eyeing me because I feel like I just wasn't showing up maybe like how I would show up today. And again, though, I was still like doing well in school. I still would answer their calls, but it might take me a while to get back to them. So they didn't really have anything to be like, all right, like, I guess you're just doing your own thing. So they kind of knew something was up, but they had no idea like what was to come, obviously. So, let's see. So basically I'm trying to remember like the first time my drug of choice. I don't know if you want me to say it on here. I just don't know YouTube stuff, but
is it something that YouTube will be mad at?
I don't know. Opiates. Yeah. I think they're okay with that, but that was my
absolute downer upper.
Yeah. That's what like, did it for me though. I remember the first time I did that, I was like, everything made sense. It's like, oh, everything wrong in life. Like it just all made sense when I did that. And, I went probably a year before ever touching it again. People don't understand, these things don't happen overnight. It's rarely like you do something one time and you end up doing it every day after, and now all of a sudden you're homeless and in jail. It doesn't really happen that way, to be honest.
Right.
So I went a year probably without even touching that stuff again. And also
very important. Same guy also, or did
Yes.
you guys kind of slowly fade?
No, we literally were partners in crime, like inseparable, always together, went through all of this together. And it's important to note too, like he was the one who would get all of these things. Like he just, he had a very traumatic, his father died like a year before he went to Berkeley. So that was really, really tough for him. And one of the ways that he coped was using substances. And so he was the one who provided all of them for me, or at least introduced them to me. And so we did all of this stuff together. And we go about a year after just like trying that one time. And then I start to notice like something's off with him, because we're like inseparable. Okay. And all of a sudden he's just not around very much. Like he's gone most of the evenings, and he's like at this one person's house all the time. And it was another guy. And ultimately I find out that they're doing stuff together, substances. And the reason he was hiding it from me is because he knew I'd be mad, and I was, not that I was particularly upset he was doing substances. I was just didn't like, it's like, oh, if you have to go over there to do it, like something's weird,
Yeah.
So
I have standards now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So really what happened was I have kidney stones. I've had 5 kidney stones in my life.
Bummer.
They're the worst. And I had gotten one out there, and because of the opiate epidemic, they really were cracking down on prescribing things like that. So they basically were like, you just go get some naproxen, which is Aleve, and that should be good enough. Not really. I'm like in excruciating pain, and I'm trying to pass this stupid kidney stone. And my ex is like, here, just take some of this. Like, it's the same thing that they prescribe anyways, and you'll feel better. And so I took it. I had the classic experience most people have where I'm sitting at the toilet the whole time throwing up because it's just too strong and too much. But after the initial terribleness,
I didn't know that. And how long does it last?
Well, it all depends on your tolerance. But in the beginning, I mean, it can last you, 8 hours to a whole day.
Oh, wow.
Really, the feeling. Yeah. And once you kind of get past that initial sickness, you feel really good. So finally, after I'm done throwing up, I go and I sit in the bed, and all of a sudden I'm just kind of tired, and I'm sitting there and I realize wow, I feel really peaceful right now. The pain has gone away. I like this pretty much, but I didn't really think too much of it past that, other than I was annoyed with my ex always being gone.
Right.
And so eventually I end up going to this, I don't want to call it a trap house, because it really wasn't that. It was still students at Berkeley. There's a very bad drug problem at Berkeley. You know how musicians are.
Pretty much every school though.
Yeah, it's nowadays for sure. But this was probably 10 years ago. Back then, it was just particularly bad at this school too. So I go over to this student trap house with my ex, and basically I start doing the same thing they're doing. And all of a sudden I'm there every night with my ex and these people. And so it started out as weekends. On the weekends, we would just casually do pretty much the heaviest drug you can do. It's so weird to say it started with a casual use, because people, they can't fathom that.
No, because you think, oh, that's the one they tell you to stay away from.
Yeah. And it's just honestly, stay away from it, because you could end up the way I ended up and most people end up. But no, it's not like that at first. At first it's just another party drug. If I'm being honest, it's just the best one there is. So I'd say it was the summertime, school was out, and this is really where things started to accelerate. And this was my third or fourth year at Berkeley. And it was the summertime. And so we're there every weekend. And I remember one day I was well, I'm just going to do a little bit more. It was a Monday.
Wow.
And that's the fatal mistake, is really once you go past 3 days, now you're going to start building a dependency. And slowly it would be, okay, well, I'm just going to do it Tuesday too. Just a little bit, and all of a sudden now it's you kind of need it. And it's okay when you have stuff, but when you run out, you're oh, I really need it now. And I knew that you would withdraw if you didn't continue to use, but you don't really know until the first time you get sick. You just don't, And so whatever, we're kind of just doing this stuff. And then, this is the first time in my memory it all kind of came to a head. Was I have a stepsister, and she was getting married, and my mom wanted me and my ex to go to their wedding.
Right.
Back here in Minnesota. So we do. And this is, mind you, what I have done, what I'm about to tell you, countless times over countless countries. I did some insane things in active addiction, but my ex, I'm not understanding yet at this point that like I have a dependence. Okay. I'm just not getting it.
Right.
My ex is like, well, like we got to bring some. And I'm like, no, like we'll be fine. He's like, no, we got to bring some, and we're bringing some. So he finesses some and we bring it on the airplane. Was fine.
Oh my gosh.
But and I've done that. I've gone to Thailand. I've gone to China. I've gone all over the world and done that.
That's girl.
Yeah. I mean, and nothing ever happened, but it just goes to show you the lengths that you'll go. And so anyways, we get back to Minnesota, and, you know, the first few days we're here, it's great. And then we start to run out. And it is like the most epic meltdown I have ever experienced. My sister is getting married, stepsister is getting married in a number of hours. And my ex-boyfriend is literally flopping like a fish in our hotel room bed, sweating bullets, shivering, throwing up on the toilet. And for some reason, like, I'm okay. I didn't feel great, but I felt good enough to make it to the ceremony. You know, like I didn't realize that's when I did realize he was way heavier into this than I was.
Right. Right.
And it's awful. I mean, he doesn't end up going to the ceremony. My parents obviously know something is very wrong. And it's really bad. So I pull it off for myself. I can't pull it off for him, whatever. We are on this brutal car ride home to Minneapolis from northern Minnesota. And my mom and my stepdad are lecturing us on drugs and all of these things. And it's just terrible, right? But we end up going back to Boston, and that was the first time I really felt shame, I think, for using these things. And this is the first time I'm seeing it now, like, really get in the way of my relationships. And so when we get back, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a step back because I don't like where this is going. And it was all right for a couple months. I mean, still using on the weekend, still using casually on the weekends and partying with it and everything, but I'm not really letting myself get to that point. And then I have a trip to, I think I was going to Thailand or something. And my boyfriend, he gives me some stuff to bring with me just to hold me over. And I remember I specifically did this so that I could basically like titrate off of it. And by the time I got home from that trip, it was like a 2-week trip. By the time I got home, I was like pretty good. You know, I wasn't feeling withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, I was like, wow, I really did it. Like, now I can just kind of like put this to bed. Like, I shouldn't keep doing this. Like, this is a sign. You know, I got out of this without feeling too sick, got out of this without destroying too much. I should probably stop. And so I land back in Boston. My boyfriend picks me up and we go back to our apartment, and there's a huge party. And my ex, I just remember this conversation. Like, he was like, well, do you want to do some? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know. So he calls our guy and gets some. And I remember just sitting there thinking, like, if I do this, there is no going back. I just knew. I knew in that moment, if I did it, there was no going back. And I did it. You know, and that was truly, in my opinion, the beginning of the end. From that day on, my entire life changed forever in every way possible. And it really accelerated fast from there, because I had this switch of mentality, you know, where I just was like, I don't care. I'm willing to risk it all to keep doing this and keep feeling this way. It's, you know, it's a certain type of person who decides to use opiates. I think, you know, there's different stuff for different people, but generally people who like to go down, there's a hatred for yourself in that, because you don't really, what it is it's this pause from existing. You don't have to exist in the world for those few hours. You just sit there and you feel good. Nothing else matters. All of the problems around you are gone. You know, what people think of you doesn't matter. Like, you're just in your own world, and it's a peaceful world. And for someone like myself who was kind of figuring out too, like, okay, I don't have the capacity to be a responsible adult. Like I just didn't. And this was like such an easy way to escape from all of that. And it just was very clear to me, like, this is why people do this. It's a break from existence, you know, and whether you've been in a horrible situation, and maybe you've been in some way, whatever, hurt by other people, whatever it is, whatever trauma you have, nothing can fix it like that substance can. And that's how it feels in the moment. So that was really like the critical turning point there. And yeah, that day, and I 100% take responsibility for it. People ask me all the time, do you blame your ex? It's like, not really. You know, I maybe it wasn't good that he introduced me to these things, but remember in Chicago, I was experimenting on my own anyways.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I didn't have to do all of this. You know, I was given plenty of warning signs by my friends, things I saw that he probably wasn't a good influence on me. And I chose, because I loved him so much too. I mean, I chose to stay in that situation, and I chose to continue to do this stuff when I didn't need to. And I always will take responsibility for that day in particular, because it was a battle that I chose to fight.
And I did. Like you went through like this window, and it was you knowingly went through it. But before you get going, because I'm fascinated, I want to hear all of it. But when you look back now, can you see how it is a false peace and a false, like, even the feeling? Do you even see how that is a deceit? Or do you still think, that feels good?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be some level of just being flooded with dopamine that you're going to feel good, obviously physically, but I don't think it can be peace if you have to escape reality completely to feel peaceful. Right. That's probably not peaceful. You know what I mean? Yeah. And while I don't always feel peaceful these days, like obviously life happens and things happen in the world, there is a peace and a confidence that I have that I've never had in my life. Partly because I was able to overcome a lot of these things, but a lot of it is because of God. And I don't even really like to take a lot of credit for what I have overcome, because honestly, I give a lot of it to God. There are so many situations I shouldn't even really be sitting here today. I shouldn't have ever gotten out of jail, really. Like, so many things have happened that I just feel were supernatural. And God obviously had his hand on my shoulder, because there's no way I could have done this all myself. So, anyways, yes, the long story short is I mean, it's just not real.
What would you like, let's say the you from right here could walk into that room and just have a minute with her, or anyone else that's about to make that decision, what are some of the things that you would say to them?
I think the biggest thing is the temporary relief, the instant gratification. It's not really worth it in the end. You know, it's what you'll find is when you do something that you feel, when you do things that are surrounded of your passion, when you are locked in and the things that you do are meaningful, they give you purpose, you are passionate about them, you will accomplish things through that gives you a sustainable relief. Like the amount of, I don't even know what the word is, the amount of just relief and gratification that I felt when I finally moved into this house and I knew it was going to be a sober house, that lasted for months. I felt just good for months mentally because of that. And I think really that's a lot of what addiction is it's just you're grasping at anything you can get for some instant gratification because everything else in your life sucks, you know? And if you can just understand that it's temporary, it's not real, and it can't lead you anywhere good. It never does. It literally never has. There is not anybody who has ever gotten into this.
So glad I started doing opiates.
Exactly. It's never happened. Okay. And if it has, I haven't heard about it.
Right.
So it's just things like that. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't think there's anything anyone could have told me though, you know, and it's all right. Cause
many people say that.
Yeah.
It actually gave comfort to one of the moms I know that lost her son. She met somebody like you. We were all out at a comedy deal, and he happened to sit next to her, and she was my friend, but he was my daughter's friend. And so long story short, somehow they got on the conversation, and he literally told her, he said, I want you to listen to me. Your son, there's nothing that you could have done. I don't care what anyone says. Nobody could have stopped me.
Nope.
And she was like, I look over and she's tearing up, and she was so happy afterwards because, you know, I think it's a natural reaction for parents to blame themselves or to seek for answers in areas that really, you know, aren't theirs.
Absolutely. And it's so hard to tell that to somebody who has a son or a relative that, you know, has lost their battle to addiction.
Yep.
But it's the truth. I mean, unfortunately, with this in particular, like people hate to hear this, but there isn't really much you could, the only thing that you can do is enable their recovery.
Right.
Don't enable their addiction, enable their recovery. You know, when somebody is in active addiction, if they are using, no, you don't help them with money. I wouldn't even give them a place to stay. You can't. You just can't. But if they even say show a little bit of wanting to start getting sober, like asking for, well, is there maybe like a rehab you could help me get into, a detox? You show up immediately. If you show somebody that we will do whatever you need us to do to help you get better, because a lot of addiction is just feeling alone. You know, a lot of people say that, a lot of people feel that way. And for people who are in it to know that if they choose to do the right thing, they will be rewarded, that's helpful, you know? So it sucks because I wish there was like a better antidote. I wish there was like a real answer to some of those tough thoughts and questions and concerns, but there isn't. You know, it's just the hard truth of it all.
One of the things though that I do think, and let me be really clear, I don't think just a Christian parent would matter. I think a Christian parent that instills the fruit of the Spirit and the armor of God, because that includes peace. And that will be an indicator always. Okay, look, I don't have peace right now and I'm trying to chase it with alcohol. That could get worse. I might chase it with something else. And you can teach your kids that the indicators are there. So it might strengthen, and I'm not saying it will, it might strengthen their recognition of the hill going down the hill and not being able to recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If no one's ever taught you how important peace is,
right.
then how would you make that one of your pillars? You just wouldn't.
Yeah. It's very true. You know, like I said earlier, I didn't really grow up. I always knew God was real. I just didn't know, oh, is it the Christian God? Is it the universe? Is it Buddha? I didn't really know like who he was, but I knew he was there. But had I known, you know, more, perhaps that would have helped me at least maybe like exit a little bit earlier from that life. But
right.
You know,
oh, sorry. I thought you were
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's interesting thinking about even just rewinding again to when you were talking about, you said trap house, but I don't want to say that. It was more of a place. But really, when you think about it, it is a power and principality. And it could be in a beautiful place, but it would still feel like that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I think that people are always amazed at how that happens. It's kind of like if you need to get an eggshell out of your pan, you take an egg because it's the same thing and it easily picks up the egg. Because I
Yeah.
remember a friend of mine saying, "Oh my God, my son landed in Miami, and within 30 minutes he was in the hospital. How did
Yeah.
he get that fast?" And they just know each other.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, blew my mind when she told me that though. I was like, that is a powerful entity.
It's,
That's beyond, oh, I know that I'm in a city, so I know there's someone here. I need to look for it. That is a divine meeting, but like the wrong kind of divine.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, and looking back, I absolutely feel like there was very dark forces
That's
in a
what I
lot of,
wanted to know about because I think it's good to be able to help people see that.
yeah.
So share those with us.
Yeah. I just, people don't look at things this way, but it's what it is. Well, uh, drugs and substances, they kind of, they really are like the devil's candy. It invites you into a world that you shouldn't be in, and it is deceitful because it feels good, but it is bad for you in more ways than one. I mean, it's also bad for your body or temple. And the thing is, like, when Satan like gets you in his grips, you don't really know it, because for a lot of people like myself, like I didn't even know God, so how am I supposed to know the devil?
Right.
And looking back now, like when I just think of like literally the places I was in, like one of the last things I always share of my story is the second to last day before I went to jail for the last time and got sober. That at that point I was homeless. I had nowhere. I was just relying. I would go anywhere I could just to hang out for a few hours, So I ended up at a real trap house. And when I tell you, now I was on drugs, so I probably was a little bit, paranoid, but I'm telling you, something in me, I have to get out of here. Like I literally felt like I was in imminent danger in that place. The vibe in there was so just awful and dark and just I've never been in a place like that since. I mean, something felt evil in there, and some of the people who were there that I had spent a lot of time with were evil. And something I will say is that meth or crystal meth, it brings out an evil in people that does not exist otherwise. And that was the drug that I sold. So I saw a lot of what that did to people.
Right.
And I'm telling you, there is an evil that exists within all of us that certain things can bring out. And that substance in particular, I saw people turn into demons. I really did.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like, oh, they look like demons. No, the way they acted, I could just see it in their spirit. They were possessed by these dark demonic entities, and all of it just felt like it was culminating in that moment. All of these people, I knew they were bad people. Maybe they weren't truly, but at that time, under the influence of this stuff, they were. And this was in the literal, like probably one of the worst places of the hood in Roxbury in Boston. And I went outside, and I'm me, small little petite blonde girl,
gorgeous. Yeah.
I was like bag lady when I was homeless. So I have like 4 bags on me because I'm carrying my crap with me all the time because I never know where I'm staying. I have this like janky cricket phone, and it's freezing, and I'm trying to call my friend to get me an Uber, and I can't. And I'm freaking out because I know it's bad in there, but I also know at any moment I could get robbed, I could get assaulted, I could get, anything could happen to me in a matter of seconds. And I remember seeing a car drive by, and mind you, it's like 3 a.m, so nothing good happens after midnight. And by like the grace of God, I was able to get a text through to my friend who was able to get me an Uber. But I just knew in that moment, like everything about that situation
was demonic.
Yes. And I don't, I haven't really thought about it like that since. Because I haven't really, I don't know, I just haven't. But when I think about it now, at least it's no doubt what that was, you know? So,
sure. Well, it's so fascinating. I've had Jerry Marzinski on. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
no, I
But
haven't.
so he is a therapist that
Okay.
worked exclusively at insane asylums and prisons with
Oh, wow.
schizophrenics. And he said that drugs is the absolute gateway. He is sure of it. And
Mhm.
he's like, they kept telling me these people are hallucinating, but they never hallucinated good. It was always bad. And
Mhm.
I've interviewed him several times, or you can watch any of them on YouTube. They're incredible. He's been interviewed a lot.
Yeah,
But
that's
what's so
fascinating.
fascinating about it is he is sure that the drugs do that.
Yeah.
And he even has had several of them talk about how they were out doing drugs and they were seeing entities out in
Ugh,
the forest.
yeah.
And yeah, it's really interesting. The thing that I find the most fascinating about evil, though, are the hooks, because you don't necessarily feel them coming in.
Mhm.
It's usually so soft and gentle, like your little window in time where something told you, "Hey, pause right here," but
Yep.
you went through it. Um, Pulling away is always harder. And
Oh,
it is amazing to me how deep those hooks get, because you'll think, "Oh, I wasn't around that person long, or I wasn't," but when you try to break that off, there are days and there are incidents and there are drama all being pulled out, and it is a bummer. And so I want to go back, though, because we haven't really heard the whole story.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we left off where you were coming back from the wedding, and
yeah,
you're like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And because I do want to hear the whole thing
yeah,
before you have to go.
yeah, yeah. So this is the beginning of the end right here. I mean, so from here, uh, my family's on to me, but I'm kind of just not really talking to them very much anymore. And um, my ex was always, if I'll give him anything, I'll give him this. He was a hustler, um, and he had been selling drugs for a long time. But what happened was our main plug kind of like, it's gonna sound crazy, but like it was like he introduced, there's like a gap in the market out there. Okay. There's no uppers out there. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And my ex was, he was, I I haven't really talked to him since. I mean, I'm married now. I don't really care
Right.
to, but I always wonder what he's up to, because he wasn't an idiot by any means. Like, so you'll kind of see what I mean here in a minute. But so basically, we're at a point where it's like, well, we have this big habit. We have to, because, obviously the longer you do these things, the more you need, the worse, the routes get for administering them. And eventually we're kind of just at this point where, like, he's really good at selling drugs. He's also really good at going on the deep web. So he knows all these things, and we have a habit to feed. And at this point we have to pay rent, because, like, my parents were helping me out in the beginning, but at this point that
They're
was
like,
gone, and his family
that was
didn't.
smart of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like serving at a bar for a while, but I kept showing up late because I was getting high all the time, and they fired me, and we were kind of at a crossroads. And so we kind of took all of the money that we had, and he would order from the deep web. And so
So you have no idea even where you're getting it from.
I would actually argue that it's better
Better.
to do it this way. You actually know way more this way than you do just getting stuff off the street. But, to some extent, no, you're never really going to know,
Right.
So there's always a level here of you're taking a big risk. But
Sure.
not to mention, you get caught doing that, like in the mail and stuff. You don't want to do that. But, when you're in active addiction, you don't
Right.
care about any of this. You're
I mean,
just
people steal from their own families.
exactly, and that was one of my things. Was I was very prideful, and I refused to use my parents' money, ask them for money, and I didn't. So that's one thing I can at least say is, I didn't ever do any of that, because no matter what, through all of this, I still knew right and wrong. And there was a level of wrong I just was not willing to cross. So I don't know why my boundaries were at certain points, but
that is really cute and funny, actually. And that's very common.
yeah,
I've worked with guys out of jail, and a lot of them will tell you, like, there's a street code.
there is. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm doing it on my own. I don't know. That was my way of thinking about it. So anyways, long story short, we spent a good chunk of money, but that's the other thing is, what you can get online is way cheaper than what you can get on the streets. So this is where it gets really bad, because all of a sudden we're like making a lot of money. Like, we're making a lot of money on top of this like crippling addiction that I in particular have. He did it, but like, I would argue he was more addicted to the lifestyle of this than as I was more addicted. I was addicted to the lifestyle, but I also just like getting high. And so now all of a sudden we're making like,
you're balling
so much money. I don't even know what to do with it all. Like, I'm going across the street to CVS and spending $500 every night because I'm bored. Like, it's coming, and it's coming really fast. And, in the beginning, I'm the type of person where if I do something wrong, if I get in trouble, I'm always getting caught. That's just happens to be.
I was that child too.
Yeah. That's just, and my ex couldn't be more the opposite, gets away with everything. So I was like very systematic about this. I was very cautious, and I really thought like we wouldn't get caught, and we didn't for a very long time because if I wasn't there, I don't know how long this would have gone on, because I was just so, cautious and whatnot about all of this. And so kind of what happens is, we're doing all of this, we're making too much money. And through this all, again, in the beginning of this, it was fun too, because like, you're making all this money, you're getting high all the time. Like, every day I'd wake up and do whatever I wanted, like, it was very liberating in some sense. Just nobody telling me what to do. I can do whatever I want, literally. And that was very liberating for me, because I've always been a bit of a people pleaser. I'm an only child, so my parents are very hands-on. And I just felt for the first time like I can just do whatever I want. And, that can get to your head a bit. But so we move into this new apartment. We moved all the time, but we're in this new apartment, and we're making money and everything, but our relationship is deteriorating fast. So at this point, we are 6 or 7 years in.
Oh, wow.
I dated him for 7 years, and about half of that relationship involved the substances and all of this. It's like, again, it's the summer, I guess, something about the summer, but it's the summer, and this is the beginning of the end, for real. And so my ex is going insane, partially because he preferred the uppers. And this is another example of what I mean when I say, like, he became somebody I didn't know this person anymore. And in turn, I didn't know who I was anymore. I completely lost my sense of self, my identity in all of this. Like, my identity became like, I'm this hustler, I'm this, OG, whatever. Like, that became my identity. And looking back on it, it's cringe, but like, and this is kind of what I mean when I say it takes people a while to transition, but like that, there were like, street codes and things I lived by even to this day. It's like hard for me to let it go. But so this fully becomes who I am. But at the same time, like, I look in the mirror and I don't even recognize myself anymore. And at the same time, our relationship is terrible. He's cheating on me constantly. He's literally going with ladies of the night, if you will, like, just literally being the worst human being on the planet. And don't get me wrong, I was not perfect either. We were both just terrible to each other at this point. And we are fighting every night. We're loud. And all of my, talk of caution and this is all gone at this point. Right. We are strung out of our minds. We can't see clearly. We can't think straight. we're just all over the place. And he's totally off the deep end at this point. And I knew it's like at this point, I'm begging him just to like, just be with me. Cause I was like grieving the end of our relationship in real time. I knew it was over. Like I just knew that summer, like this was going to be the last summer of this, at least him and I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me, but yeah. We were just so codependent on each other too, that, you know, and I'm out in Boston. I don't know anyone. I have, you know, friends, not really anybody who is in this world is not your friend, but you know, I have acquaintances out there. I don't have any family. Like I'm all alone. So if he and I are to split, like it's going to be tough for me type thing. I don't have anyone to fall back on, at least if I want to continue using and living this lifestyle. I always have my family and that's always in the back of my mind. Like I can always go home, but I know that that means the end of all of this and wasn't ready to let go of that yet. So I'm just like crying every day, like begging him just to like, can you just stop going out for one night and just like be with me just one night, you know? Cause again, like I see the writing on the wall and he can't. And I remember this day, I will never forget this. It was like a movie. I will never forget this. So, you know, we get into another huge spat. This is like a nightly occurrence, honestly. And I often would go and take a walk. One of my favorite things to do was just walk around the neighborhood in Boston because I lived in the city and listen to music and just think, you know, because I really was contemplating a lot. Like, do I want this? How liberating is this? You know, at this point now, I'm grappling with it like morally and just everything. I'm trying to make sense of why I'm still doing this. And so I had stormed out and we were in the midst of a fight. So we didn't exchange very nice words to each other. And I happened to be sitting on this bench and I would like bring my journal with me. And I have so many journal entries from this time too, because I've always been a big writer. And he and somebody that was at our place, they get an Uber to go meet a lady of the night, if you will.
Yeah.
And the friend was a mutual friend. So he told me later, like, while we were in the Uber, we passed you sitting on the bench. And my ex said, do you think I should get out? Do you think I should go talk to her? Nah, never mind. And so they keep going. And that night he ends up, I don't even really understand what happened, to be honest there. He ends up getting arrested. He's found with his gun. He's found with drugs and he goes away and he's locked up. He's served, I think, a year or two. Okay. So the last time I ever saw him was that moment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
so now you have an apartment, your business partner's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and at first neither of us really knew, like, oh, is he going to make bail? Like, it's different out in Boston, you know, you have to pay all of the bail up front. So like I had bailed him out another time for 10 grand. You have to come up with the 10 grand right then and there. He didn't even make bail this time because he was already out on probation. Right. You know, this is not good. So he's going to be away for a long time. But at first I didn't know that. And I was so mad at him that I didn't really care. You know, I'm like cussing him out on the phone and I told you this was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And so all of this is going on and I sold my apartment at this point. So I'm okay in that sense, but I get hooked up with some people that I kind of know that are also in my business at the time, my line of business, if you will. And biggest mistake I made. I mean, ultimately it was good, but this was a massive mistake on my part. And so I'm, you know, while he's in jail, I'm just with them, you know, whatever, running around and business as usual. And I should have never trusted these people. And ironically, my ex warned me not to trust them, but I was mad at him. So I thought I would show him. And I really just showed myself. But so long story short, I need to go make a delivery in, I think it was in Connecticut. And one of my rules was you only take Ubers, you never drive, because Ubers don't get pulled over. And if they do, they don't search you as a passenger. So that was one of my rules. And this is the one and only time I broke that rule. And this guy that I had linked up with, not romantically, like business wise,
Right.
well, why don't you just go with one of my people? He'll drive you. And I'm like, okay. Oh, what happens? This guy is high out of his mind. He can't drive straight. He turns going the wrong way onto a one-way in like the hot spot of Boston. Okay. This is like where all of this, sort of drug and homelessness, everything's in this area. And he's in like the hottest part of Boston. So we get caught. Of course we get caught, and I have tons of product on me. Like, like we're talking like prison time. I have guns. He has a gun on him. It's so bad, right? This is the first time I've ever been arrested. And, it's really scary. I don't know if anyone.
Did you cry?
Nope. I kept it pretty gangster the whole time. Honestly, wow. It was more like shock, because if you've ever been in a car with someone who has a gun, when you get arrested, it's really intense. Like, you're frozen while they're, you think it was like the army coming in on you, right. So it's a little bit frightening. And so all of this is happening. And so I go to jail, and this is 2 weeks after my ex went to jail. So it's just so funny, because I always used to say like, well, I'm never going to get caught. Okay, sweetheart, you got caught red-handed. So your first arrest really isn't a big deal. So if you, this is just another reason why liberal policies don't work. And I am for, prison reform. I actually do believe in that. But long story short, I get let out on bail the next day, and my ex's mom, she knows about this. She was a co-signer on our lease. Her child is in jail, and she's like, yeah, I'm getting out of this. So now I have no place to live. I just got out of jail and my apartment's packed up. So I'm like, oh, well, that's great. And I don't, it's really hard to get an apartment if you don't have like a job or pay stubs.
Right.
Not all places are down to just like take a bunch of cash. Some places are, but you're going to end up in a really bad neighborhood. So these people that I was linked up with, they had an apartment. So I kind of end up staying there, and that's a whole thing. It's terrible. This person ends up totally backstabbing me. It's awful. Oh. She loses the apartment. Now I'm totally screwed. I'm out of a place, and I'm basically living out of a storage unit. I'm living out of a storage unit, and the kindness of like two people's hearts who would let me like stay on their couch sometimes. And it's the middle of winter in Boston. So it's like here in Minnesota, it's like gets into the negatives. It's snow. And at this point, I'm like very, very miserable because I'm totally alone. All of these people who are supposed to be my friends, we're supposed to be doing business together, they're all out to get each other and me. And I can't trust or rely on anybody. I don't know where I'm going to sleep at night. Mind you, I had a cat in all of this, and the cat, I had to like finesse the situation where the apartment was like empty for a month. So I kept the cat there. And then finally one day somebody, I was going to bring my cat to one of my friend's houses who was going to watch it. But long story short is the apartment evicted, had called animal control and took my cat, and I couldn't get my cat back. So Mike's like, if you know anything about me, I am a huge cat lover. Like I love animals. I love cats. That made me cry. broke me. That broke me because it was like, I failed. I failed my cat. I failed my parents. I failed even my ex, even though he failed me. Like, it's just like when it rains, it pours, so my ex goes to jail. I go to jail 2 weeks later. I'm literally homeless basically within a month. And it's the middle of winter in Boston. I'm literally like in complete and utter survival mode. And it is hard. It's really hard. And when you're a female, there are men around you all the time trying to take advantage of you. One thing about me, I might be willing to sell drugs, but I am not willing to sell my body.
Right.
That's just another one of those lines that I won't cross.
Right.
even though there's people trying to get me to do that all the time, more of those dark forces. And so it's like getting worse by the day. Okay. It's like, I'm messing up my money because I'm in survival mode. People are out to get me. Okay. So now I'm losing money in that way because they're trying to sabotage me. I'm just getting screwed left and right. And I remember there's like two last pieces to this. The first one was that Christmas, like the most sad scene I feel like I've ever been in. One of the people who would let me stay on their couch, she was with her family that day. And it's literally just me alone in this apartment. And they were hoarders. So there's just mountains of crap all around me. I'm totally alone. I miss my family because I still love my family. I'm just obviously not talking to them because I'm still not ready to admit that I'm done with this yet. Even though I'm homeless, I'm on the run. Mind you, I'm on the run during all of this because I just didn't show up for court after that. Because they wanted to drug test me. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So all of this is going on. I've lost my cat. At the time, he was the love of my life, is in jail. And I'm sitting alone, all alone on Christmas. And I'm just getting high to the freaking gods, man, because I don't want to be here. Like, I'm just depressed and miserable. And I'm just sitting alone in the middle of the room it's not even my place. And it's a hoarder's place. It was just one of those moments where I was like, this really sucks.
Like opposite of a Norman Rockwell painting.
Really though, it is sort of, maybe modern Norman Rockwell, but it was just brutal. And so 2 months later, I'm still bouncing around places, trying to get my money up. I just can't. Because this is the thing. When you're in survival mode, if you understand Maslow's tower or, pyramid of needs, it's very difficult to get out of that first little part of the pyramid into the next. If you don't have like security, food and water and sleep, safety, you're just screwed, man. You're just screwed. And
especially being so young and gorgeous and tiny, and you're a miracle that you weren't completely defiled. Like God was looking out for you.
Yeah, no, exactly though. No, I was the only person looking out for me, and I barely was, to be honest. So it's basically what happens is I get arrested again because one of the people I was staying with, his mom didn't want me there. And so she called the police, even though I would have just left. But ultimately, like, I'm actually grateful to her that she did this.
Right.
So I go to jail again, and I'm like trying to call all these. I've bailed out thousands and thousands of dollars of bail for people. Okay. And I can't get one of them to answer the phone for me. And I just remember sitting like in my cell, just defeated. And mind you, I am like kicking drugs. I am withdrawing so hard in jail. It's freezing. It's just miserable. And I have absolutely nothing. I have like $300 to my name in my storage unit, my little storage unit. That's what I have. And I just remember like praying to God. All right. Like, I guess I could get on Suboxone, which is an MAT. A lot of people use it to get clean. I guess I could go home but I'm facing like serious charges. I'm facing indictments. So I'm like, God, if you can get me out of this, I promise you, I will never come back to this. I will dedicate myself to music again. I just promise I'm done. I'm done. If you can get me out of this, I will never look back ever again.
And was that the first time you called out to God?
Yeah.
And the whole 7 years that you were
pretty much.
Wow.
I mean, God would show me signs, and I knew it was God. Again, I didn't really know who God was, but I knew it was God, like always. My ex, this is something he was an atheist. And like I said, I do think the drugs brought out demons in him. He'd always say, you look at these things too deeply. Like, sometimes things just are. And like, yeah, obviously he's right. But like, no, that was a demon talking to me, trying to tell me not to pay attention to all of these signs around me.
Yes.
And, Yeah, but that's what I always say is, a lot of these legalist Christians, they pick on people like Nala Ray. I mean, just using her as an example, a lot of people meet God when they're at their rock bottom and they're all alone and they have no one left. That is when a lot of people who meet God, and that is when you meet God in a situation like that, your connection to him is, I don't want to say stronger than someone else's, but it's very real.
Right.
When he is all you have left to lean on, you really learn a lot and you really learn to rely on him. And sure enough, I decided I was going to call my parents, and because I knew they would help me get out of this and get sober. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to call my parents, and they bailed me out, and I went back home. And this legal case was very long and contentious, but I did end up beating it.
Oh, good.
I walked away with a misdemeanor. I went from indictments on trafficking, walking away with a misdemeanor. That's like a miracle in of itself. And that's what I mean when I say
wow.
God was with me through this, because that just doesn't happen. Now it was hard. It was hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And I ended up having another case too, but the legal system will absolutely test your willpower.
And yeah, they keep pulling you back in.
Yep. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier with, the devil. Those are the things, those are the hooks. He's not just going to let you off easy, especially if you start leaning on God. And yeah, so obviously I got home and I had already decided mentally I'm done. So I got sober. I went to a treatment program, and I did start a sober house for about 2 or 3 years. It was really hard, but it was rewarding, but it was hard. And yeah,
I think it's always harder than people think it's going to be. I was helping guys out of jail. I didn't run a house of them, but, tried to get them mentors, tried to place them, tried to get them jobs, tried to get them cars, it's a lot. It's a lot. And
well,
so
because
I can't imagine living with them.
Yeah. I mean, and so sober houses are a commonly utilized tool for those in sobriety. The idea is that if you're in a house that, supports and understands and uplifts people in the same situation, you have a better success rate and you have a better support system to deal with things like the legal system, to deal with your therapy. It's like transitional housing. It's to help you just before you go on your own. And the problem with it is you think you're going to help and everyone's going to just walk out renewed and sober. And that doesn't happen. It's actually very little, and sometimes these people walk out of your house and they seem sober and stable and they end up relapsing, and that's not anyone's fault. But the point is, it's not as I don't want to say glamorous, but yeah.
Yeah, because people don't realize that there's a reason that they're turning to those things.
Yes. And a lot of them aren't faith-based either, but.
Right. Well, and that's a huge deal, and it shows you how important it is. And so when you went home, did you start going to church? Did some Christian mentor you? Did you and God just have a deal? And so you were gonna how did it work?
Yeah. So what happened is I met my husband in high school years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it was never the right time type of thing. It was we always maybe would have dated. It just never really worked out. And when I moved home, I reached out to him. I already knew my relationship with my ex it wasn't quite dead, but it was deteriorating very fast. And I knew he wasn't going to change. So I just knew it was time. Right. And he was not Christian when I knew him my whole life. But I remember looking in his Twitter bio and it said Christian. And I just was like, really? He's a Christian now? That's interesting. And I wasn't sticking my nose up at it. I was actually really curious about it because I've always envied people who have such a strong relationship in faith, because I could never get there. I didn't really try hard though. So I didn't really understand that, but I basically just, asked him about it, and he kind of just started bringing me to church. And I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I've always believed in God, but it took me a while to believe in like Jesus Christ and understand that that is who God is. But just slowly by going to church and being open-minded to what they were teaching and being open-minded, I bought a Bible and I just read it front to back. Like I just was open-minded that maybe it is the Christian God that is the God that's been helping me through all of this, you know? And eventually it just kind of clicked for me. Like when I think about other religions, like Christianity is the only religion that offers salvation. Like what is the point of religion and serving a God if it isn't for salvation, you know? And if the main principle isn't sacrifice, like every other religion wants you to sacrifice for God, whereas our God sacrificed for us. It's just one of those things where it makes sense, you know? But I really credit my husband for a lot of things, but he's the one who was bringing me into this church and helping me with some of these ideas like very early on in my sobriety. And it really is just such an amazing contrast of influence, you know, like if this influence over here was like bringing me to church.
And this one brought you
exactly. So yeah, he's really the one
who, 2 men.
Yeah. But yeah.
Talk about contrast. Wow. That is so cool. And you just recently got married. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We got married in October. So yeah.
I love it. And so thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. And I especially appreciate that you hadn't really thought through the whole demonic thing before, like to that depth.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to kind of keep rewinding, because you might be able to pull nuggets out where you could share with people just when they have the tiny little demon eyes that look like candy.
No, you're very right. Yeah.
And you might be able to find some really powerful teachings that you can share with people that can share with their kids, or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tell everybody where to find you. You have a YouTube channel. What do you cover? All the good stuff.
Yeah. You can find me on X, on TikTok, on YouTube. They're all just Miss Cherry Perez. I cover a lot of political and cultural stuff. Definitely a lot of political stuff. I actually am doing a video about Omar Fateh, the new Minneapolis mayor. So that's a whole talk about religion and all of that. That's a whole mess, but I'm trying to get that out this weekend. But just stuff like that. I like talking about pop culture and stuff too, and all of that. But yeah,
it's a little bit of variety, but mostly politics.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it. And is it really geared towards a certain age? Like, is it mostly younger people that are watching you, or is it a big variety?
It is. I mean, I have a lot of older people who watch too, but it's probably both.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. And just so that people know, it is Miss Cherry Perez on both TikTok and YouTube.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the description box as well.
Oh,
thank you so much. Because there was actually somebody in here tonight that lost their son to drugs. So I'm sure it was comforting to hear what you had to say. And just it's so wonderful. Like, it ended up so great. And you're just this tiny, cute little thing. And I'm so happy that you're back under God's umbrella.
Me too. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah. It was my pleasure. Bye, everybody.